My wife slept with her ex on our wedding day, thinking I'd never know, but I had a plan, and what I revealed at the altar left everyone speechless. I'm Ryan, 30 years old, living in San Diego, and for the longest time, I thought I had everything figured out. I was getting married to Sabrina, my girlfriend of 3 years, and honestly, life seemed pretty damn good. She was gorgeous, super outgoing, and could light up a room when she walked in. Everyone who met her would say things like, "Man, you're lucky," and I believed them. I mean, who wouldn't? On paper, she seemed perfect. We planned this big wedding. Like, I'm talking all out, a beachfront venue, fancy catering, a live band. You name it, we had it. It wasn't cheap, but I thought it was worth it. You only get married once, right? Well, at least that's what I thought at the time. But about a week before the wedding, Sabrina started acting different. At first, I brushed it off. Weddings are stressful, you know? Between the guest lists, the decorations, the seating charts. Yeah, it's a lot. But her behavior wasn't just stress. It was something else. She'd suddenly get super secretive with her phone, always flipping it over when she set it down or stepping out of the room to take calls. I didn't really say anything at first because, honestly, I didn't want to come across as some paranoid fiancé. That's not me. Then one night she was in the shower, and her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the screen lit up, and a name popped up, Jason. Now for a second I thought, who the hell is Jason? And then it hit me. It's her ex. Yeah, that Jason, the one she swore was out of her life ages ago. The message wasn't long, it just said, "Looking forward to tonight." That's it. And I'll admit, my stomach twisted a little. I mean, why was she making plans with her ex a few days before our wedding? But then I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she was helping him out with something. Sabrina's always been the type to help people, so I decided to just ask her later. That night, when she was out of the shower and we were getting ready for bed, I said, "Hey, so Jason texted you earlier. What's that about?" She didn't even blink. "Oh, Jason? Yeah, he's just going through some stuff. I've been checking in on him. It's no big deal," she said so casually, like it was the most normal thing in the world. And maybe it was. But something about the way she said it didn't sit right with me. I didn't push, though. I figured I'd let it go for now. But after that, things started adding up. She'd tell me she was going to meet her maid of honor to go over wedding details, but wouldn't give me much info. She'd get super defensive if I asked too many questions, saying I was stressing her out or making things harder than they needed to be. And I'll admit, I started to wonder if I was overthinking things. Like, was I being that guy? The one who turns every little thing into a big deal? I didn't want to be that guy. Still, the phone thing kept bothering me. It wasn't just Jason. She'd get a ton of texts, and every time, she'd immediately hide her phone or act like she didn't hear it. One time, I even joked, "What, you got a secret admirer or something?" She just laughed it off, but the way she avoided eye contact? Yeah, that stuck with me. Then came the night that really kicked things up a notch. Sabrina told me she was meeting her maid of honor, Grace, at a cafe to finalize some wedding stuff. It sounded normal enough, and I didn't think twice about it. I stayed home, watched some TV, and was just about to crash when my best man, Eric, called. "Yo, Ryan, are you busy?" he asked, sounding kind of hesitant. "No, what's up?" I replied, a little confused. He paused for a second. "Look, man, I don't know if I should say anything, but I'm at Shimon Bar right now, and I just saw Sabrina here." "Okay," I said, not really understanding the problem. "She's not with Grace," Eric said slowly. "She's with some guy, and I'm pretty sure it's Jason." That caught my attention. Jason? Like her ex Jason? Yeah, man, they're sitting in a booth in the corner. It doesn't look like they're talking about centerpieces, if you know what I mean. For a moment, I didn't even know what to say. Sabrina was out with her ex at a bar when she told me she was meeting her friend? What the hell was going on? Eric must have sensed my silence because he added, "I'm sorry, dude. I thought you should know. I can send you a picture if you want." I told him to send it, and when it came through, my heart dropped. There she was, sitting way too close to Jason, her hand on his arm, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. I thanked Eric and hung up. After Eric's call, I couldn't get the image of that photo out of my head. Sabrina and Jason, sitting in that booth, way too close, way too comfortable. She wasn't just meeting up with an old friend. It looked intimate, and we both knew it. I stayed up half the night trying to figure out what the hell to do. Part of me wanted to storm down to the bar right then, but I knew that wasn't the move. I needed to see this for what it was and not let my emotions take over. The next day, Sabrina acted like nothing had happened. She was cheerful, humming some song while making coffee in the kitchen, like she wasn't out cozying up to her ex the night before. "Morning, babe," she said with that same bright smile that used to make me melt. Now it just made me question everything. I played along. "Morning. How was your meeting with Grace?" She didn't even hesitate. "Oh, it was great. We went over some last-minute stuff for the seating chart. She's such a lifesaver, honestly." She sipped her coffee and started scrolling on her phone like it was just another day. It hit me then. She was a damn good liar. The way she spoke, the way she moved, it was all so natural, so confident. If Eric hadn't called me, I would have bought every word. That pissed me off more than anything. I didn't press her right then. I wanted to see how far she'd take the lie. So I asked, "Did you guys stay at the cafe the whole time? Seemed like you were out pretty late." "Oh yeah," she said casually. "We stayed there for a while, and then I dropped her off at her place. It was just a long night." "A long night, huh?" I nodded, biting my tongue to keep from saying something I'd regret. Later that day, I called Eric to get more details. "What else did you see? Did they leave together?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "Nah, man, they were still there when I left," Eric said. "But they looked real comfortable. Like if you didn't know she was engaged, you'd think they were together." That stung. I thanked him and hung up, but my head was spinning. I couldn't just let this slide, but I also didn't want to jump the gun. That evening, Sabrina told me she was going out again, another wedding errand with Grace. This time, I wasn't letting it go. Cool, I said, trying to sound nonchalant. Where are you guys meeting? Just at her place, she said quickly, grabbing her purse. Something about the way she answered made me pause. All right, say hi to her for me. She gave me a quick peck on the cheek and walked out the door. As soon as she was gone, I grabbed my keys and called Eric. I'm going to Shoreline, I told him. Dude, are you sure? What if she's not even there this time? I have to know, I said. I parked a block away from the bar and walked in, trying to keep my cool. The place was crowded, the usual mix of college kids and locals. It took me a minute to spot her, but there she was, back in the same corner booth with Jason. They looked even more comfortable this time. She was leaning toward him, laughing at something he said, her hand resting on his. My stomach turned. This wasn't just some innocent conversation. I didn't confront her right then and there. They were in their own little bubble, completely oblivious to the world around them. It was like I didn't even exist. At one point, Jason leaned in close, whispering something in her ear that made her laugh and lightly shove his shoulder. I clenched my fists under the counter, trying to keep myself in check. I stayed for about 20 minutes before I couldn't take it anymore. I left without saying anything, drove home, and sat in my car for what felt like hours. I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to do. We were getting married in a few days. How do you even begin to deal with something like this? By the time Sabrina came home, I'd calmed down enough to play it cool. She walked in, all smiles, and said, "Hey, Grace says hi, by the way." I nodded, barely looking up from my phone. "Oh, cool. Did you guys get everything figured out?" "Yep," she said, kicking off her shoes. "Just a few more things to finalize and we're good to go." I couldn't believe how easily she lied. She didn't miss a beat. That night, I barely slept again. I kept replaying what I'd seen at the bar, trying to make sense of it. How did she dare cheat on me? The next morning, I decided I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. I called Eric and told him everything. "Dude, you've got to talk to her," he said. "You can't just let this go. If she's doing this now, what's going to happen after you're married?" He was right, but I wasn't ready to confront her yet. I needed more information, more proof. So I decided to wait and see what she'd do next. Over the next few days, Sabrina kept up the act. She'd smile, laugh, and talk about the wedding like nothing was wrong. But every time her phone buzzed, I felt my blood boil. I knew Jason was still in the picture, and I knew she wasn't being honest with me. By the time the rehearsal dinner rolled around, I was barely holding it together. Sabrina's family was all smiles, talking about how excited they were for the big day. My family, on the other hand, could tell something was off. My mom pulled me aside at one point and asked, "Are you okay? You seem distracted." "I'm fine," I lied, but I wasn't fine. I was furious, and I knew I couldn't let this go on any longer. Alright, so by this point, I was done sitting around and letting Sabrina play me. I was tired of the fake smiles, the lies, and her acting like everything was fine when I knew it wasn't. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I could see exactly what was happening, but now it was time for her to see that I wasn't someone she could keep stringing along. The morning after the rehearsal dinner, I woke up feeling like today was the day I'd finally say something. I couldn't keep this bottled up anymore. She was still in bed when I got up, scrolling on her phone like she didn't have a care in the world. I stared at her for a moment, wondering if she even felt guilty for sneaking around with her ex. Did she think I wouldn't find out, or did she just think I'd forgive her no matter what? Either way, she was about to find out she was dead wrong. "Hey," I said, my voice steady, "we need to talk." She looked up, slightly confused but not alarmed. "Sure, what's up?" I sat down across from her, keeping my eyes locked on hers. "Where were you the other night? And don't tell me you were with Grace, because we both know that's not true." Her face froze for a split second before she forced a smile. "What do you mean?" "I told you I was with Grace working on wedding stuff." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "Cut the crap, Sabrina. Eric saw you with Jason." Her jaw dropped slightly, and I could see the panic start to creep into her expression. "Wait, what?" "That's not true," she stammered. "Eric must have been mistaken. Don't lie to me," I said firmly. "He wasn't mistaken. He even sent me a photo. You were sitting in a booth with Jason, laughing, touching his arm. So tell me, what the hell is going on?" She sat there for a moment, completely silent, as if she was trying to come up with some kind of excuse. Finally, she sighed and said, "Okay, fine. Yes, I saw Jason, but it's not what you think." "Not what I think?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "You've been sneaking around with your ex, lying to me about where you've been, and spending time at a bar with him instead of working on wedding plans. So tell me, Sabrina, what exactly is it?" She started to tear up, which I knew was her go-to move whenever she got caught doing something wrong. "Ryan, it's not like that," she said, her voice shaking. "Jason reached out to me a while ago. He's been going through a lot, and he just needed someone to talk to. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd overreact." "Overreact?" I said, my voice rising. "You're meeting up with your ex days before our wedding and lying to me about it, and you think I'm overreacting?" Her tears started to flow now, and she reached out to grab my hand. "Please, Ryan, you have to believe me. I love you. I don't have feelings for Jason. I was just trying to help him." I pulled my hand away, shaking my head. "You don't lie to someone you love, Sabrina, and you sure as hell don't sneak around with your ex behind their back. Do you even hear yourself right now?" She started to panic, realizing I wasn't buying her excuses. "Ryan, please, it was a mistake, okay? I shouldn't have seen him, but it didn't mean anything. I swear." I stood up, unable to sit there and listen to her try to spin this anymore. "You don't accidentally meet up with someone multiple times, Sabrina. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. And honestly, it's pretty damn clear where your priorities are." She jumped up too, trying to block me from leaving the room. "Wait, please don't walk away. We can fix this. I'll stop talking to him." I'll block his number. Just don't give up on us. I paused, staring at her for a moment. Part of me wanted to believe her, to think that maybe this was just some stupid mistake she'd made in a moment of weakness. But the other part of me, the part that had been watching her lie straight to my face for weeks, knew better. How long has this been going on? I asked, my voice quieter now. She hesitated, which told me everything I needed to know. A couple of weeks, she finally admitted. But it wasn't anything serious. We just talked, I swear. I let out a bitter laugh. Do you even hear yourself? You're supposed to be marrying me, and you're sneaking around with a guy you used to date, and you think I'm supposed to just believe it's no big deal? It wasn't like that, she insisted, her voice desperate now. I made a mistake, okay? But it's you I want to be with. Please don't let this ruin everything. I shook my head, stepping past her and heading for the door. Sabrina, you already ruined everything. I don't even know who you are anymore. I walked out, slamming the door behind me, and got in my car. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed to get out of there and clear my head. When I finally pulled over, I called Eric and told him what happened. Dude, she admitted to it, I said, my voice shaking with anger. She's been seeing Jason for weeks. Ryan, I'm so sorry, man, Eric said. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. I don't know yet, but I can't just let this slide. There's no way I'm marrying her now. He was quiet for a moment before he said, Look, whatever you decide, just know I've got your back. You don't deserve this, man. Hearing that meant a lot, but it didn't make the situation any easier. I knew I had some tough decisions to make, and I knew the fallout from this was going to be messy. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let Sabrina or Jason make a fool out of me. I spent the rest of that day driving around aimlessly, trying to process everything. Sabrina wasn't just lying to me, she was living a completely different life behind my back. And the worst part? She had the audacity to keep acting like everything was fine, like we were still the perfect couple everyone thought we were. When I finally got back to the apartment, she wasn't there. Good. The wedding was only 2 days away, and I knew I had to make a decision. Do I go through with it and hope this was just a stupid mistake, or do I call it off and deal with the fallout? The thing is, calling off a wedding isn't just about you and the other person. It's about the guests, the families, the money you've already spent. It felt like an avalanche waiting to happen. But as much as I hated the idea of disappointing everyone, I hated the thought of marrying someone who didn't respect me even more. That night, Sabrina came home late, as usual. I was sitting on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen when she walked in. She looked surprised to see me there. Hey, she said, forcing a smile. You're up late. Yeah, I said, not looking at her. Couldn't sleep. She paused, probably sensing the tension in the room. Listen, about earlier, she started, but I cut her off. Save it, Sabrina. I don't want to hear it right now. My voice was calm but firm. I wasn't in the mood for another round of her excuses. She stood there for a moment, then sighed and walked into the bedroom. I stayed on the couch, staring into the darkness, trying to figure out how the person I thought I was going to spend my life with turned out to be such a liar. It wasn't even just about Jason anymore. It was about trust, and once that's gone, what's left? The next morning, Sabrina acted like nothing had happened. She came out of the bedroom, already dressed and ready to tackle another day of wedding errands. She poured herself a cup of coffee and started scrolling on her phone, completely ignoring the elephant in the room. So, what's the plan for today? I asked, trying to sound casual. I wanted to see if she'd even bother to tell me the truth. She looked up, startled. Just some last-minute stuff with Grace, she said quickly. We're going to pick up the centerpieces and make sure the venue is set up the way we want it. I nodded, playing along. Sounds important. Need any help? She laughed nervously. No, we've got it covered. You just relax and get ready for the big day. She gave me a quick peck on the cheek before grabbing her bag and heading out the door. The second she was gone, I felt a mix of anger and relief. Anger because she was still lying to my face, and relief because I didn't have to deal with her for a few hours. Eric called me. Man, what's your plan? I paused, staring out the window. I don't know yet, but I'm not going to let her get away with this. She thinks she can just walk all over me and I'll still marry her? She's in for a rude awakening. Eric laughed. Now that sounds like the Ryan I know. Just let me know if you need backup. After we hung up, I spent the rest of the day thinking about how to handle this. I wanted to confront her in front of everyone at the wedding, to expose her lies and make her feel the humiliation she deserved. This wasn't just about her. It was about me taking control of my life and refusing to settle for less than I deserved. When Sabrina came home that evening, she was all smiles again. Everything's coming together perfectly, she said, dropping her bag on the counter. I think this is going to be the best day of our lives. I forced a smile, trying to hide my frustration. That's great, I said. I'm glad everything's working out. She came over and wrapped her arms around me, resting her head on my chest. I love you, Ryan. I know things have been stressful lately, but I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. Her words felt hollow, like she was trying to convince herself as much as she was trying to convince me. I didn't say anything, just stood there until she let go and went to take a shower. As I sat there, I realized something. I didn't love her anymore. Or maybe I did, but not in the way I used to. The trust was gone, and without that, what was left? A pretty face and a lot of broken promises. That wasn't enough for me. The night before the wedding, Sabrina was in the bedroom, probably dreaming about walking down the aisle, while I was on the couch, thinking about how I was going to handle the next day. I knew I couldn't marry her, but I also knew I needed to make my decision clear in a way she couldn't ignore. By morning, I had a strange sense of calm. I wasn't nervous or angry anymore. I was just ready. Ready to stand up for myself, ready to put an end to this farce, and ready to walk away from someone who didn't deserve me. Sabrina was buzzing with excitement as we got ready to head to the venue. "Can you believe it? In a few hours we're going to be husband and wife," she said, beaming. I forced another smile. Yeah, hard to believe. She didn't notice the edge in my voice, too wrapped up in her own little world. But that was fine. She'd notice soon enough. I played along, answering questions when I needed to, nodding at her dad when he gave me his "don't screw this up" look, and shaking hands with guests as they arrived. It was like I was on autopilot. Inside, I was just waiting for the right moment. When I walked into the ceremony area, the setup was breathtaking. White chairs lined up in perfect rows, flowers everywhere, and the ocean as the backdrop. It looked like something straight out of a magazine. It should have felt special, but all I could think was, how much of this money did I just waste? Guests were slowly filing in, chatting and laughing, oblivious to the disaster brewing. My groomsmen were in place, all looking sharp in their suits. Eric gave me a nod, silently asking if I was okay. I nodded back, no turning back now. Sabrina's family was all smiles, greeting everyone, talking about how excited they were for the big moment. It made me sick. Her dad even came over and patted me on the shoulder. "You ready to officially join the family, son?" I forced a smile. "Absolutely," I said, though the words tasted like ash in my mouth. The music started, and everyone took their seats. Sabrina's bridesmaids made their way down the aisle, looking like they were in some romantic movie. I barely noticed them. I was too focused on what I was about to do. My heart wasn't racing, my hands weren't shaking, I was steady, ready. Then the music shifted to the classic wedding march, and everyone stood. Sabrina appeared at the end of the aisle, her arm hooked around her dad's. All I could see was a liar, a manipulator, someone who had no problem sneaking around with her ex while I was at home planning our future. It was like her appearance was a mask, hiding the person I now knew her to be. She finally made it to the altar, standing across from me with that big, radiant smile. Her dad gave me a firm handshake and whispered, "Take good care of her." I just nodded, too focused on what was about to happen. The officiant began his opening remarks, talking about love, commitment, and the sanctity of marriage. I barely heard a word. I was waiting for my moment. He turned to me and asked the first question. "Ryan, do you take Sabrina to be your lawfully wedded wife?" I took a deep breath, looking Sabrina directly in the eye. Her smile faltered slightly as she noticed the look on my face. "I'm sorry," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "but I can't do this." The crowd gasped, a few people murmured, and Sabrina's smile disappeared entirely. "What? What are you doing?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I ignored her and turned to the guests. "I need to be honest with all of you," I said, my voice steady. "Sabrina hasn't been honest with me. For weeks now, she's been sneaking around with her ex, Jason. She lied to me, lied to her friends, and lied to all of you." The murmurs grew louder. Sabrina's mom looked like she was about to faint, while her dad's face turned beet red. The bridesmaids exchanged shocked glances, and my groomsmen just stood there, frozen. Eric, though, looked proud, like he'd been waiting for this moment almost as much as I had. Sabrina grabbed my arm, her eyes wide and full of tears. "Ryan, stop. Please don't do this. You're making a mistake." I pulled my arm away, looking at her like she was a stranger. "No, Sabrina, you made the mistake. You made it the moment you decided to see Jason behind my back. You made it every time you lied to my face. I deserve better than this." She started crying, full-on sobbing now, but I wasn't moved. The crowd was dead silent, all eyes on us. It was like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. "Ryan, please," she begged, her voice breaking. "I love you. I'll fix this. Just don't leave me." I shook my head. Love isn't sneaking around with your ex. Love isn't lying to the person you're supposed to spend your life with. If this is what you call love, I don't want it. She tried to grab my arm again, but I stepped back. "You can cry all you want, Sabrina, but this is over. I'm done." I turned to the officiant, who looked like he wanted to disappear. "Sorry for wasting your time," I said before walking down the aisle, past the stunned crowd. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The damage was done. As I walked out of the venue, I felt a strange sense of relief. Sure, I was leaving behind a mess, a really expensive mess, but it was worth it. I dodged a bullet, and I knew it. If she was willing to lie to me before we even got married, what would she do after? Back at my car, I sat for a moment, taking it all in. My phone was blowing up with texts and calls. Sabrina, her mom, even a couple of her bridesmaids, but I ignored them. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I'd said my piece. Eric was the first one to call, and I actually answered. "Dude, that was badass," he said, laughing. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, finally allowing myself to smile. "Better than I've been in weeks. You want me to grab some drinks and come over?" "I think you've earned it." "Yeah, man, I'll see you in a bit." As I drove away from the venue, I felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Sure, I'd just blown up what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but it was better than living a lie. Sabrina would have to deal with the consequences of her actions, and I'd get to start fresh, knowing I made the right choice. When I got home, Eric showed up about 20 minutes later, a six-pack in hand. "Man," he said, walking through the door, "that was insane. You really pulled the plug in front of everyone, huh?" I nodded, slumping onto the couch. "Had to. She left me no choice." Eric cracked open a can and handed it to me. You should have seen their faces. Her dad looked like he was about to charge the altar, and her bridesmaids? They were whispering to each other the whole time, like it was a reality show. I smirked. Good. Let them talk. She earned it. The voicemails were exactly what I expected. Sabrina's voice was shaky and desperate, alternating between apologies and excuses. "Ryan, please call me back. We can fix this. I know I messed up, but we can work through it." Her mom's message was more aggressive. "Ryan, how dare you humiliate my daughter like that? You couldn't have handled this in private? You owe her an apology." I rolled my eyes and deleted the messages without even finishing them. I didn't owe anyone an apology. If anything, Sabrina owed me one for wasting my time, for lying, for thinking she could get away with it. A few days passed, and the fallout started spreading. Word got around quickly, especially after Eric shared the photo he took of Sabrina and Jason at the bar with a few mutual friends. I didn't ask him to, but I wasn't mad about it either. People deserved to know the truth, especially after Sabrina's mom started spinning the story like I was the bad guy. Apparently, Sabrina's version of events was that I'd snapped under wedding pressure and left her at the altar because I couldn't handle the stress. That didn't sit well with me, but I didn't have to say much to set the record straight. The photo of her and Jason said it all. Once people saw that, her excuse fell apart. One of her bridesmaids, Lauren, even reached out to me. "Ryan, I'm so sorry," she said over the phone. "I had no idea she was doing that to you. If I'd known, I would have said something." "It's fine," I said, not really wanting to get into it. "I'm just glad it's over." But Lauren wasn't done. "Honestly, Sabrina's been acting sketchy for weeks. Grace and I noticed she'd disappear a lot during wedding stuff, but she'd always say it was just personal errands. I feel bad now for not questioning it." "Don't. It's not your fault," I said, and I meant it. I wasn't going to waste time being mad at anyone but Sabrina. As for Jason, well, his involvement didn't last long. Apparently, after the wedding disaster, Sabrina tried to lean on him for support. Big surprise, he wasn't interested. He'd been all smiles and charm when they were sneaking around behind my back, but the moment things got real, he ghosted her. A mutual friend told me he blocked her on social media and stopped answering her calls. Classy guy. Sabrina tried reaching out to me again, this time through texts. Her messages were full of emotions, apologies, accusations, and desperate pleas. One text would say, "I'm so sorry, Ryan. I know I messed up, but I love you and I want to make this right." The next would say, "You're being so unfair. Everyone thinks I'm a monster now because of you." I ignored every single one. What was the point? She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. Big difference. A week after the wedding, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. I wasn't surprised. It felt like something she'd do. I opened the door and there she was, looking like a mess. Her hair was tied back in a sloppy bun, and her eyes were puffy, like she'd been crying for hours. "Ryan, please," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can we talk?" I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. "What do you want, Sabrina?" She hesitated, like she wasn't sure how to start. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. I know I screwed up, but I want to fix this." I stared at her, not saying anything, letting her squirm a little. "I'll do whatever it takes," she continued, her voice breaking. "I'll block Jason. I'll go to therapy. I'll do anything. Just give me another chance." I shook my head slowly. "Sabrina, you don't get it, do you? This isn't about blocking Jason or going to therapy. It's about trust, and you destroyed that. There's no coming back from this." She stood there, silent, her tears falling harder. I felt a small pang of pity for her, but it wasn't enough to change my mind. "Go home, Sabrina," I said, stepping back into the apartment, "and don't come back." Before she could say anything else, I closed the door and locked it. As the weeks went on, Sabrina's attempts to contact me slowed down. Eventually, they stopped altogether. Word got around about what happened, and people started distancing themselves from her. Even her closest friends started to see her for who she really was. Looking back, I don't regret a thing. Walking away from Sabrina was the best decision I ever made. She showed me exactly who she was, and I believed her. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that you should never settle for less than you deserve. Life's too short for that. And Sabrina? Well, last I heard, she's still single. Jason didn't stick around, and her friends don't trust her anymore. I guess she's got plenty of time now to think about the choices she made. Me? I'm just glad I walked away. Best decision of my life.